Today, we're doing a deep dive into the power of persuasion, and specifically the fascinating art of personalization. Now, we've got a stack of sources that honestly, at first glance, might seem totally unrelated. We're talking ancient philosophy,
Sure.
then cutting-edge AI, and even, get this, the tactical shifts of Real Madrid Football Club.
Seems like quite a mix.
Right. But here's the thing, the connection. At their heart, they're all wrestling with the same challenge. How do you effectively reach an audience? How do you move them? So our mission today is to unpack all this stuff, find those surprising threads connecting like basic human connection to the science of tailored communication, and maybe even beyond. Okay, let's start with this word, rhetoric. When you hear that word, what springs to mind? For a lot of people, it sounds kind of negative, right? Like empty talk or maybe twisting the truth.
Yeah, it definitely has that connotation sometimes.
But our sources, they show a much richer, older meaning, something really fundamental.
That's right. If you look at the Introduction to Rhetoric and Communication material, it calls rhetoric an elastic term. It mainly deals with, well, persuading people, the strategies and tactics we use to convince others. Historically, it's all about speech modalities aimed at convincing people of particular points of view, And that whole idea of rhetoric versus truth, that's not new at all. It's an old practice, goes way back. Think Socrates debating the sophists in ancient Greece.
Ah, okay. So this tension has always been there.
Exactly. But what's really interesting, I think, is the deeper philosophical take from Henry Johnstone. He puts forward this powerful idea. His thesis is that rhetoric is the evocation and maintenance of the consciousness required for communication.
Whoa. Okay, unpack that a bit. Evocation and maintenance of consciousness.
Yeah. It basically elevates rhetoric way beyond just, like, simple persuasion tactics. It suggests it's something essential to human beings.
Essential. So, far from being just empty talk, rhetoric might actually be foundational to how we think, how we interact.
That's the implication. Yeah, it's a huge shift.
So what does he mean by essential to human beings? How does that work?
Well, he argues that humans, we're intentional creatures. We do things consciously, with goals in mind, not like animals running mostly on instinct. And Johnstone thinks rhetoric is this inherent potential in everyone. He even says that refusing to be rhetorical would actually take a conscious decision.
Huh. Interesting.
He also pushes back against what he calls the naturalist position, the idea that rhetoric just evolved so we wouldn't fight all the time. Because, let's be honest, rhetoric can also cause violence, right? Think propaganda, or even things like the Christian Crusades in history. It's not always about avoiding conflict.
Good point. So it's a tool, and it can be used either way.
Pretty much. And his central claim, it's really profound. He says, rhetoric is implied in the very activity which is supposed to supersede it, to wit, the communication of objective fact.
Okay, so even when we think we're just stating facts, objectively.
Exactly. He's saying there's still a rhetorical dimension. It challenges those neat lines we like to draw between, facts and opinions, truth and beliefs, objectivity and subjectivity.
Wow, okay, that's a lot to pound on. It implies true neutrality is maybe impossible. And how does this apply to, say, talking to my phone or any device? We tend to think interacting with computers is like perfect communication because you don't need to persuade them, do you?
Well, that's where Johnstone draws a really sharp line. Based on that same source, he argues machines have no agency. They can't refuse you. They don't think or process information like a person does. He says we can actually communicate nothing to the machine. We can at best get it to accept. It just takes the command.
Get it to accept, not communicate with.
Precisely. So for him, interacting with a machine is basically irrelevant to both communication and rhetoric. Genuine communication, he insists, only happens between people, and it must include rhetoric.
Why? What's the key difference there?
He talks about consciousness as being like an interface. His point is all consciousness is consciousness of something, and that requires a kind of distance between you, the conscious being, and the thing you're conscious of.
Okay, like a separation.
Yeah, and language is the interface that creates that distance. It lets us step back, deliberate, mull things over, consider, decide on messages. Machines, they just accept the input. They don't deliberate.
Right, no reflection.
Exactly. He puts it really powerfully. To be conscious of something is always to interrupt the unity of the transaction between subject and object. Consciousness confronts the person with something radically other than himself. And here's the kicker. I have the power to accept or reject a datum, only because I am not the datum.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
So that pause, that moment when you actually think about what someone said, you decide, yeah, I buy that, or nope, not convinced. That's consciousness at work.
That's it.
And that's fundamentally rhetorical because you have the choice to accept or reject, which a machine doesn't.
Precisely. That's the core of it. And other thinkers echo this. Kenneth Burke says rhetoric is addressed because persuasion implies an audience.
Yeah.
You need someone there to persuade. And James Carse, he puts it very bluntly, a robot can say words but cannot say them to you.
The to you part, that's crucial.
It is, because speaking to someone, not just at them, shows, motive, orientation, purpose, and intention. That's the human rhetorical part. And that's why John Stone circles back to rhetoric is the evocation and maintenance of consciousness. It's about activating that conscious, intentional connection where you can say yes or no.
Okay, this is fascinating stuff. So if speaking to someone is so deeply human, so tied to consciousness, how does this play out today in the world of, say, business and marketing?
Right.
Because our sources definitely point towards personalized marketing being a huge trend now. It feels like an attempt to replicate that, speaking to your idea, but at scale.
Absolutely. Personalized marketing is right at the center of this. If you look at the impacts and the guideline sources, they define it as designing and delivering tailor-made products and services to individual customers. The big goal, a one-to-one relationship, which sounds very much like that speaking to you idea, doesn't it?
It really does. How do they do it?
Well, it runs on customer data, lots of it. Purchase history, browsing habits, demographics, or stated preferences, all that stuff. And they use it to give you individualized content, product suggestions, targeted messages. You know the drill.
Oh, yeah. We all see it every day. But why does it work so well? What's the psychology?
That's where it gets really compelling. The sources dig into a few key reasons. First off, simple customer preference. One study found 71% of buyers expect personalized interactions now.
Expect it. Wow.
Yeah, and 76% get frustrated when it doesn't happen. People just don't want, irrelevant promotions cluttering up their inbox or feed.
Makes sense.
What else? Trust. It builds trust. It feels more like a helpful salesperson who actually asks questions and explains product benefits specific to you, rather than just shouting generic features. Then there's loyalty. Even small things like, the barista remembering your name.
Or birthday email.
Exactly. Birthday emails, personalized promotions, reminders, all that stuff creates a warm, fizzy feeling, as one source puts it. It boosts loyalty. And there are some cognitive effects, too. Heard of the cocktail party effect?
Vaguely. Remind me.
It's our brain's ability to tune into one specific stimulus, like hearing your name across a crowded room. So, in marketing, simply adding the customer's name in the subject line can capture the customer's attention. It cuts through the noise.
Clever, like shouting your name.
Kind of. And finally, there's even a potential dopamine effect. Getting something personalized, something just for you, can actually trigger a little dopamine release in the brain. It makes the whole experience feel more rewarding.
So it's not just a fluffy marketing term. There's actual psychology, even brain chemistry, making us feel good when a message seems tailored just for us. That's powerful.
It really is.
But you mentioned data and personalization. That sounds like it could get tricky, ethically speaking. How do companies handle that side of things?
That's a critical point, and the guideline source addresses it directly. It talks about the different types for things like behavioral targeting, contextual targeting, predictive modeling, dynamic pricing, personalized content.
Okay, lots of methods.
Yeah, things like customizing websites as you browse, dynamic emails, those ads that follow you around.
Retargeting, yeah.
Right. And location-based stuff, like maybe getting an offer when you walk near a specific store.
So the ethics.
Crucial. The guidelines stress. Gather data responsibly. That means clear unsubscribe options, a transparent privacy policy, really protecting the data they collect. And interestingly, they also advise don't over-personalize.
Don't overdo it. Why?
Well, partly because it can stifle discovery. You only get shown things you already like. But also, it can just come off as, well, the source uses the word creepy.
Yeah, definitely seen examples of that. It's a fine line.
It really is. Finding that sweet spot between relevant and intrusive.
Okay, so humans personalize, companies try to personalize, but what happens when AI gets involved? When the personalization isn't human-driven anymore? Our sources point to this really interesting intersection. Using large language models, LLMs, for personalized public messaging, like for health campaigns or civic engagement.
Right. This is where we see AI stepping into that persuasive space.
Yeah.
The Stony Brook University research tackles a big problem with traditional public messaging think surveys, focus groups.
Yeah, they're slow, expensive.
Exactly. Slow, costly, and may fail to capture real-time shifts in public opinion. Plus, they often struggle to account for individual differences like personality. So the AI solution they propose is combining LLMs with something called conjoint analysis.
Conjoint analysis, what's that?
It's basically a statistical method to figure out how people value different features of something. So they use it here to get the LLMs to simulate human-like responses and adapt messages to different personas.
Personas, like personality type.
Kind of, yeah. They tested it in areas like COVID-19 mandates and voting messages. They created 153 different messages with 3 features: the core content, like stats versus values, local context, comparing to neighbors, and outcome framing, success versus failure stories. And they fed these into the LLM, guided by 5 different personality types, ranging from, say, extreme opposition to compliance to highly compliant.
Okay, so they're trying to model how different kinds of people might react. Did it work?
Well, here's the really striking part. They compared the LLM's predictions to a real study with over 2,000 actual human participants, and they found a remarkable alignment between LLM predictions of human preferences and actual human preferences.
Wow. So the LLMs were actually pretty good at predicting how real people would respond.
Apparently so. It suggests this approach could be a scalable, cost-effective alternative to doing massive surveys all the time.
That's incredible. It's like the science of speaking to you, but amplified by AI, using data to figure out how to speak to different groups or even individuals. What did they find about message effectiveness?
Some really clear takeaways. Feature 1, the risk factor information, absolutely dominated. It accounted for like 77 to 82% of relative importance.
So people want the facts, the stats.
Seems like it. Detailed, statistically backed info was preferred. But feature 3, the success-failure stories, was the second most important factor.
And success or failure.
Consistent preference for success stories over failure stories. People respond better to positive framing, it seems.
Okay, interesting. What about the local context,
No.
comparing to neighbors?
Surprisingly low importance. Consistently low, actually, around 3%. So telling people what their neighbors are doing doesn't seem to move the needle much.
Good to know. And did the personality types matter in terms of what they preferred?
Oh, yeah, definitely. For example, the extreme opposition type preferred minimal, just the facts information, whereas the more neutral or compliant types liked more comprehensive details.
So you really do need to tailor the type of message to the personality.
It certainly seems that way. Of course, the source is careful to point out limitations. LLMs aren't perfect at context or nuance, and these personality types are simplifications of real people, but the potential is clearly there.
Yeah, huge potential.
Yeah.
And huge implications as AI gets more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears now. We've done philosophy, marketing, AI. Let's look at a high-stakes, real-world arena where strategy, audience, and persuasion are absolutely critical. We're diving into the world of Real Madrid football, specifically their upcoming 2024-25 season. It sounds like a fascinating case study in maybe tactical personalization.
It really is. Real Madrid is in a period of pretty significant transition. You've got huge new signings, Kylian Mbappé, Endrick, massive attacking talents coming in.
Big names, big expectations.
Huge. But at the same time, they've lost an absolutely crucial player, Toni Kroos. People called him the team's metronome in midfield, controlled the whole game's rhythm.
That's a massive hole to fill.
It is. Plus, a new manager, Xabi Alonso, taking over after Carlo Ancelotti. And last season, well, some sources described it pretty harshly, like humiliation, getting battered in key matches, questions about Ancelotti's tactical awareness.
A lot of pressure on the new manager, Alonso.
Definitely. The expectation is he'll be more proactive, not reactive. Many fans seem to believe he's the guy to win La Liga. But a big challenge is making those star attackers, like Vinicius and Mbappé, actually connect together effectively on the pitch. It means a big tactical rethink.
Right, you can't just throw stars on the field. You need a system, a personalized strategy for this group of players against these opponents.
Exactly. It's about tailoring the tactics. Last season, they had a pretty fluid front three. Now, how do you best use Mbappé as a central striker? Out wide, how does that affect Vinicius? And that Kroos problem. His deep positioning was key. It let the fullbacks bomb forward, his switching of play stretched defenses. Can the current midfielders, like Tchouaméni or Camavinga, replicate that specific role? Maybe not perfectly.
So the whole system might need to change.
Very possibly, we might see experimentation, maybe a 3-4-3 formation sometimes, trying to create a dynamic offense and an effective pressing front four while still being solid defensively. There's a lot of debate among fans, too, like on Reddit, about where Mbappé should even play.
And injuries complicate things, too, I bet.
Oh, yeah. The sources mention concerns about Camavinga, Bellingham recovering from surgery, Endrick, Mendy. That all impacts the tactical options available.
So the manager has to constantly adapt the message, the tactics, based on the audience, the players available, and the opponent they're facing. It's persuasion on the pitch.
That's a great way to put it. Persuading the opponent into mistakes, creating space, and communicating that strategy clearly to your own players, your internal audience, is just as vital.
And, listening to the sources, you can even see different persuasive styles just in how people talk about the team. You've got like a really passionate fan preview on YouTube using super strong language, demanding they smash the opposition.
Right, very emotional, direct.
Versus a more measured, analytical preview in Sports Illustrated, giving a specific score prediction, much more factual.
That's an excellent point. It loops right back to our earlier discussion about language and audience, doesn't it? That YouTube source, it's using informal, slangy, emotional language. These bums smash that like button perfectly tuned for its passionate fan community audience.
Yes, speaking their language.
Exactly. While Sports Illustrated uses a journalistic, more objective tone for a broader audience of sports readers, it highlights what one of our writing sources mentioned. Effective communication isn't just how someone actually speaks. It's about properly tuned language for the specific audience and purpose. You're addressing them differently, aiming for a different persuasive effect, even when just reporting or analyzing.
So wrapping this all up then.
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway? We've gone from ancient Greece to AI labs to the Bernabéu Stadium.
It seems complex, but maybe the core idea is simpler.
Yeah, I think so. Whether it's rhetoric shaping consciousness, AI predicting preferences, or a football team changing tactics, it all comes back to one fundamental thing, doesn't it? Effective communication, real connection, genuine persuasion. It all seems to hinge on really understanding your audience and tailoring your message to them.
I agree. This deep dive really underlines that personalization isn't just some modern marketing buzzword. It feels much more fundamental.
Yeah.
It connects to that philosophical idea of rhetoric needing to speak to someone to evoke consciousness. It connects to the basic psychology of feeling good when you're recognized, like getting that birthday email. And now we see AI trying to capture that same dynamic, predicting human preferences. It seems this drive to connect individually to be spoken to is just incredibly powerful across so many different fields.
It really is. So here's maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah.
As we live more and more in this personalized digital world, with algorithms constantly learning about us, and as AI gets even better at knowing what buttons to push, how might our own human capacity for genuine communication, that unique ability John Stone talked about, to speak to someone, not just at them, how might that evolve? And maybe more importantly, what does that mean for how you will navigate it all? How will you discern real connection, real persuasion from just really clever targeting in all the messages you encounter every single day? Something to think about.